Good afternoon. I would like to welcome you to your Johnston County Public Schools Board of Education meeting, November the 13th, 2018. This year has flown by. It is 2 p.m., so we'll begin our meeting. I'd like to welcome all the guests, all the newly elected school board members, Ms. Terry Sessoms and Todd Sutton, and Tracy Zinkowski could not be here today, but I'd like to congratulate them. School board candidate Jason Barber, thanks for coming today. And we appreciate your willingness to serve Johnston County. Also like to welcome Deborah Exum, who's the education chair for Johnston County NAACP. Thanks for coming today. And all the other guests. We do have a quorum. We have all 7 board members here. And there's no better way to start a meeting but with the invocation by Butler Hall and the Pledge of Allegiance to Todd Sutton. And we'll all stand, please.
Lead and guide and bless our school system. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity to serve our children and to serve those people who work so hard in classrooms, those people who work so hard behind the scenes in our offices, in our cafeterias, driving buses. You've been so wonderful to supply our needs over the years. Father, we just ask you to continue to show this mercy and your blessings on our school system. We thank you for what it's accomplished. We thank you, Lord, knowing in our hearts that it will continue to grow and flourish, help children be successful. So, Father, we thank you for your goodness to us. Thank you, Lord, for your blessings upon us. Thank you, Lord, for this opportunity today, for those who will be presenting, for those who are around the park, and just ask that your presence be amongst us as we meet. Lord, I pray especially today for Ms. Weckerson. Thank you so much for Michelle, as she is struggling today with pain, physically. We just pray, God, that you would just bless her and be with her and to heal her. Again, Father, thank you for this opportunity today. Thank you for each of these people who are in this room, for what they do, for what they mean to people of Johnston County. Be with us, Lord, as we meet. May you lead, guide, and direct us in our thoughts and in our words. We'll ask and pray this in the precious name of our Lord. Amen. Take the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Butler and Todd. We don't have any public comments today, so we'll move on to approval of October the 9th, 2018 regular session minutes. You've had an opportunity to review these minutes and entertain a motion.
So moved.
Motion by Ronald Johnson, second by Vice Chair Johnson. Any questions about the minutes? If not, all those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Discussion and adjustment to agenda. Starting with Mr. Johnson.
No adjustments.
None, sir.
None, sir.
I do have one adjustment. We're going to move comments from chairman and board members to 7-4, which is the recognition of board members, and we saved the best for last. That's why I didn't mention Ms. Vice Chair Johnson and Butler Hall at the beginning of the meeting, because we're going to share with y'all later in the meeting, and I look forward to doing that. So Entertain a motion for the adjusted agenda.
So moved.
Motion by Ronald Johnston.
Second.
Second by Todd Sutton. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Advisory board appointments, starting with Ronald Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Selma Middle School Principal Chris Germanowski has requested new member appointments of 3 years each for Marta Lopez and Chris Adams. They will be filling vacant seats, and those terms are to end in June 2021.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. We'll let that serve as your motion for the appointment of advisory board members. Next is Dr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Principal Dorlissa Johnson-Coward at McGee's Middle School requests that Sherry Green be appointed for a 3-year term, replacing Belinda Weimer, whose service we would like to acknowledge and appreciate. Her term will end June 2021.
Thank you, Dr. Smith. We'll let that serve as the second to the motion for the advisory appointments. Todd Sutton.
Micro Elementary Principal T.J. Parrish, new member appointments of 3 years each for Alex Smith, Alicia McFadder, Laura Ochoa, and Jonathan Williams, filling vacant seats. Terms to end in June 2021.
Thank you, Mrs. Sutton. Teresa Grant.
East Clayton Elementary Principal Jamie Tyler recommends reappointment of members Christy Lottie, Kim Martin, and Megan Rivera for 3 years each, terms to end in June 2021. Swift Creek Middle Principal Dr. Carrie Evans recommends new member appointment of 3 years for Lindsay Cotty, filling a vacant seat, term to also end in June 2021.
Thank you, Ms. Grant. Butler Hall.
I'll try again.
Okay.
The principal of Four Oaks Middle School, Mr. Toll Avery, gives us a new member appointment of 3 years for Jamie Pierce, filling a vacant seat that will end in June of 2021. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Hall. For the advisory board appointments, we have a motion by Ronald Johnson, a second by Dr. Smith. Entertain a motion to approve these members. Well, we already got that on. All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you. Dr. Renfro.
Mr. Chairman, at this time, I'd ask that our board approve consent items 6A, 1A through 6A, 1N.
Entertain a motion. Motion by Todd Sutton. Second by Butler Hall. Any questions about the consent agenda? All those in favor? Aye. All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, just know that we had several of our student leaders invited to attend today, but the young man who embodies being early is being on time. Being on time is being good. So Anthony Ramsey from West Johnston High School. Anthony, glad you're here today, and we hope that some of your peers will be here before too much longer. So if they come in, they'll be glad to join you. But at any point in time that you need to excuse yourself today, thank you for coming and seeing your Board of Education at work. It's greatly appreciated. Anthony was with us a couple weeks ago when we had our student leaders meeting with Ms. Ennis, and very articulate, well-instructed young man who has a bright future ahead of him. So glad to have you and glad to serve you.
Mr. Ramsey, would you like to share anything today? Okay, I'll put you on the spot. Okay. All right, thanks for coming today. Dr. Renfro and fellow board members, I did fail to recognize one member in the audience, and it's Harold McDonald from the Princeton community. He, everybody talks about Harold, and
Is he still here?
he's right behind. He's hiding behind the podium.
He's hiding today.
Harold, stand up a minute. We talk about community schools, and if you look in the dictionary, I think under community schools, Harold's picture would be beside it because he does so much for Johnston County Public Schools. Most of it's in the Princeton community, but his service to students and educators in the Princeton community is I can't think anybody that can match the service that he gives our community. But Harold, I did want for you to stand up and recognize you because you're the epitome of service to our school system, and I appreciate all you do for Princeton community.
I'm your neighbor too.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm your gas customer too. Did we tell them what happened one year?
No, I think you better sit down there.
Did you say neighbors or cousins? That's what he say? I couldn't hear.
But thanks for coming today.
Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think I'm.
Well, you probably win. Dr. Coates.
Good afternoon, Mr. Board Chair, Madam Vice Chair, members of the board, and Dr. Renfro. Today I have 4 items for you. First is beginning teacher support plan, and who will come up in just a moment to speak with you will be Dr. Todd Holmes, Executive Director of Beginning Educator Support. So I wanted to just talk briefly that you will see BTSP, Beginning Teacher Support Plan. That's what the state uses for this name, but we have renamed our department to BEST because we are, but that is Beginning Educator Support Team. So when you see BEST and the BTSP, they're the same. So per North Carolina Department of Public Instruction guidelines, anytime we have changes to our district plan, you are required to approve those. So this presentation will highlight those changes. So at this time, I'd like to call to the platform Dr. Todd Holmes to present those to you. Dr. Holmes.
Welcome, Dr. Holmes.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. I appreciate the board seeing us this afternoon. As Dr. Coates shared, whenever there's any type of revisions to our plan, the state requires the school board to approve it. Just real quick, we do have some changes to our staff. So Dana Miller has joined us as one of our directors, and then Brian Jones has joined us as our office support from South Smithfield Elementary School. So our team of 4 now. The first major change is our formal orientation. This is a Johnston County Public Schools initiated change. Prior to this year, if a teacher was hired after August and when we completed our formal orientation, they didn't have an opportunity for any type of orientation to the school system. So this is a new process. We're inviting all of the BTs, either 1, 2, or 3 that are hired late to join in our orientation, one-day orientation. When we were looking at our plan, we realized that it's not only good information for first-year teachers, but it's actually good information for second- and third-year teachers as well. So we've had about 50 people who've been able to attend this session this year, and we have 5 more scheduled for the session in August. And our department covers the cost of the subs, which the principals love to hear when they say, who's going to pay for the sub? Well, we are, and so they work with us to allow their person to come and attend that one-day orientation. The other changes are driven by new DPI guidelines. First is participation in program monitoring. So when we have our regional meetings or when our regional contact sends us information to check and see how we're doing, our plan just says that we're going to respond and we're going to participate and be a good collaborative member of our community. Participation in peer review, we are required to seek out feedback from other neighboring districts to make sure that our plan is aligned with with the state's guidelines. It's also a good opportunity for us to pick ideas from other school districts and make sure that we're doing everything we can to help our first-year teachers at second and third year as they return. Peer review, again, that's required once a year, and we have been doing that to begin with, but now it just is a formal part of our plan. Filing and storing beginning teacher records. I checked with Mr. Vetrano and Human Capital just to make sure that our processes are aligned with regular requirements. Again, we've been doing this. We've been following along with what we're supposed to be doing. It's just now it's a formal part of the plan that we have it in writing, as well as requests for beginning teacher records. We occasionally get requests from first, second, or third-year teachers who have left our county and have gone to work in other districts who want copies of their evaluation or their professional development plan or those types of things. They need documentation that they completed the program, and so we provide those records, and we just had to include a formal process for that. And those are really the only changes that we have. Any questions from Dr. Renfro or from the board? Great, thank you, I appreciate your time. Oh, yes, ma'am, Dr. Smith.
How many beginning teachers do we have? You said 50 would be attending.
I knew you were going to ask. So, so for our BT1s, we have 118 first-year teachers, and we have 361 total first, second, and third-year teachers in the school system right now.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Holmes. And as you can see on your exhibit number 6B1, this is an action item to approve this plan.
This is an action item for beginning teacher support plan and PowerPoint. Entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Teresa Grant, second by Dr. Smith. Any more questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Dr.
Thank
Coates.
you. Second item, exhibit number 6B2. This is just an update of where we are with some of the items we discussed at the last board meeting. We're going to take you quickly to the website to show you just a few things, and we have other things that we are in process of updating, and the formal big update will be at the next meeting. So one of the things we've done, and though we're not going to click it, if you go to the Parents tab on the main district page, it is now linked to the JOCO 2020 tab. So when parents want to know more about standards-based grading, standards-based teaching and learning, they don't have to worry about where to find it. So it's on both tabs. So we're going to quickly run through this. When you click the JOCO 2020 tab, you come up with the video for Phase 3 that Dr. Renfro did, and we're not going to play that today because you've already seen it. But if you go down on JOCO 2020 to Resources, under the JOCO 2020 tab, to Resources, just click under JOCO 2020 tab to Resources. There you go. So when we click the resources, it comes up with two main categories of resources, and the first is standards-based grading. We're just going to quickly show you that's a quick definition. This is where the video will be posted that we discussed with the parachute example. It has been created and is in edit mode. It's not ready to be posted. We want it to be perfect, but this is where that will be posted to talk about standards-based grading and talking about the difference in an average versus a skill assessment. That will be here. Then if you quickly click that Parents tab, these are things that are a result of our parent meetings. Just quickly click there we go. It tells you what it is, what standards-based grading is, a definition. It goes through the indicators, and then at the bottom of that are lots of the frequently asked questions that we get from the parent meeting. So every time we've gotten one, we've tried to post an answer to those questions. And if the question is not already here, we add it. And that's a continuous update on that site. Now, if we go back up to the top of that and click the teacher link, this is, of course, a section just for teachers. It talks about personalization. If you scroll down, you'll see it talks about competency. What does it mean to be competency-based? How do you personalize that? And then some of our graphics of a Phase 1, 2, and 3. Any resources that are there for teachers, our communication plan. Any of these items that are of benefit to teachers are linked there. The next part is the K-5 standards-based report card. Now, when we posted this, parents had not yet received their report card, but now they have. But this link is still active because if you notice in the middle of that report card, there are two other active links. The first active link is a sample that shows you the reporting statement. So if you would click that top one, please, in the middle of the report card. There you go. It defaults to kindergarten, but across the bottom are the tabs for each grade. So it shows by subject the statements that will be associated on that report card. And they're very, very simple, plain language, I can statements. And that's there for all the grades in elementary school. If you go back to that report card and click the other link, that is the feedback that we requested on the report card. And it's very simple. It's a Google form. It lets parents provide feedback, or anybody provide feedback. And in addition to being linked here on this website, it's also in a scrolling banner across all the elementary schools. Now that the report card has gone out, that feedback is there. And we've utilized that feedback. We utilized last year's feedback, and we will continue to utilize the feedback from parents. When you go back and close out the report card, the next section is the link to proficiency scales in standards-based grading, and it explains those and gives an example. That is where the bicycle example will be posted. That has nothing to do with formal education, but it's an easy-to-understand example that you requested, and that will be posted there. And then once we get out of that link, the next main category is instructional practice. And these are it's on that same page. When we click under that, the first instructional practice that we will select will be instructional support, and that simply describes for parents what our teaching and learning coaches are and what are their roles and how they're working in the schools. Every school has one. That term is being used a lot in the schools, and we want parents to know that what a teaching learning coach is. The next link is an outstanding link on learner profile. So if we click on learner profile, it has some videos, and it has a teacher's video and then some highlights in the class. And they're very short, a couple of minutes, but it explains the benefit of learner profile and what it is. So it's again, in very simple language as you requested. The next part on that website update is personalization, and it gives a definition, goes to our framework, and continues on in those items we've talked about. It has a great chart. If you'll scroll down to the bottom, scroll up right there. This is a great chart. It has the 12 different elements of personalized learning in very simple language, but it also gives you examples for how you can tell if a classroom environment is truly student-directed, has a little bit of student direction, or has minimal. So this is not only a great tool for parents, it's a great tool for teachers as they are working in other classrooms and visiting other classrooms so that they can identify where they are in that process. And the last thing on that page is a link to some videos, and you might have seen these. These are project-based learning videos, and these are videos, there are two short ones again. One's from our big expo last year, and one is from a classroom on what it means to have project-based learning. And again, that is an informal update. As we agreed upon, you will have formal updates quarterly, and your big formal update is in December. Any questions for me?
Questions for Dr. Coates?
Dr. Coates, I want to commend you. I had 6 questions, and I think you answered 5 of them with your update.
Okay.
So the one that still concerns me is I attended the meeting a couple of weeks ago at A.G. Glenn Building.
Yes.
And a lot of parents still have a lot of questions and concerns. A lot of it's not understanding the whole process, and I think this website definitely is a step in the right direction, and I hope that as we continue to have these other meetings, that this information that's on our website is delivered to them as well, so they can answer their questions, get a better understanding for it, because it seems like they still were not quite there from the time that I was there. But the video on the parachute, the information about the bicycle, maybe even doing a visual in front of them with a bicycle in the meeting to kind of give them the difference of all the categories might be a good visual to have for the better understanding of the different letters involved, if they master it or not.
Right.
So, but I still hear it. Standard-based grading is not being communicated properly. It's not being delivered properly to our parents. And so we're getting a lot of pushback from that side. So I hope that we can continue to have these meetings to give them a better understanding of what it is, so that they can kind of figure out what's going on.
And let me update you there. I'm glad you said meetings, because one of the things that we have asked for is for each school to have those. So we did an update recently and analyzed by every elementary school when they've had their meetings. Now, some of our, and again, principals make the decisions in their schools. Some of our principals wanted the report card to come home so that parents could bring their child's report card to the meeting and understand it. So a lot of the meetings are being held now because of that. We have some of our schools that have scheduled one every month. Some of our schools have said, we had one big meeting about it at open house, but we're asking our parents to come in and have individual meetings when they come in to do the teacher-led conferences and student-led conferences. So we have a chart from about what each school is doing. We have just gathered that information, and we are following up with them. And that is one of the reasons we've put the scrolling banner on every website so that it's in the same place when a person clicks on their school. So that's a quick communication. And we will reiterate the concerns you just shared. We have our Great Light Principals meetings this Thursday, and we will reiterate those. Mr. Garland's in the audience, and we will reiterate that at the elementary principals meeting to be sure we do a better job of communicating to our parents. Any other questions?
Dr. Coates, I have one. So how are the parents being directed to the website if they don't attend these meetings? I mean, I went to Riverdale, they had a wonderful meeting.
Right.
Small attendance from the parents, which was sad because the people who were there totally understood what was going on. They had a lot of good questions, got a lot of good answers, but some parents are
weren't there.
just not going to get out and attend these meetings. How do we
And that is
get
why,
them to
that's
this
why Mr.
information?
Garland is in the meeting. We will reiterate that at the elementary meeting. One of the reasons that we have it on the scrolling banner across every elementary school's website, it's in the same place. So that's something each school could do their own Connect Ed and say, if you'd like more information, here it is. We can talk. They will talk about that specifically on what's better for those principals, because, as I said, some principals have done a lot with it. Others are waiting for the report card. One of our schools has a monthly meeting, so just on what meets their needs. But we will talk about that. Mr. Garland's back there, and we'll make sure that happens at the Great Light. Any other questions about standards-based grading or teaching and learning?
Dr. Coates, can we get a list of the meetings that are upcoming as well for the schools?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I can do that. Mr. Garland, if you'll make a note, we'll update that at this elementary. We'll update what we have and then send this out with you.
And in December, when we do our formal update, we can share some of that information at that time.
Absolutely, what has happened and what will continue to occur. Yes. Any other questions?
Thanks for sharing that. That was really good information, Dr.
you.
Coates.
Okay. The next item is information, item 6B3, the Ignite grant recipients. At the Ignite, I'm assuming you're all familiar with Ignite. It's our optional professional development activity that we had the week before the required work days. We had it in 2 sessions, 2-day sessions, and teachers were invited, and we had an outstanding attendance. But teachers had the opportunity to extend their learning beyond this conference by applying for grants. We opened this up to teachers, and then we opened it up to students. So they were able to apply for a $500 project grant, and at this time, we have had 17 teachers apply and receive project grants. We have had 18 students apply and receive innovative project grants, and I have a list of those as well, but they're encouraged to submit an innovative proposal that connects with their teaching and learning, and if they need additional funding to make it happen, and that was the purpose of these grants. So I'm very happy to say that that's really good for a first-time effort. We had one more student than teachers, so 17 teachers, 18 students, and that's a total of $16,000 that's been awarded in those, so that's really outstanding. And that will continue. Any questions about that? That is I can get you
Do we have
one.
a list of the recipients?
I'll get you one. I don't know if you have it, but I'll get you one.
Dr. Coates, it might be great to come up with a couple exemplars for teachers and students and maybe bring them back to the December board meeting and just share with our board what the teachers and students did in these exemplary efforts.
Absolutely. Be glad to do that.
Any more questions? Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. And the last item is item 6B4. You have already received copies of the school improvement plans and low-performing action plans, as well as the feedback on those plans. These plans are linked on each school's website. And if there are questions about any of those, we'll entertain those at this time.
I just had a question about the feedback.
Okay.
Were those really, did I just not see it, or are those the only 3 comments?
Those were the only 3 at that date when we had to send out the agenda. And what happened there, each school received a copy of their school's feedback. And if you read those, you saw that one person added their name. That person received individual attention from the principal of that school. But that was the only feedback at that time.
Okay.
Yes.
And compliments to everybody for making school improvement plans focused so that they really actually get done instead of shelved. So congratulations on that. They really are, I think, headed in the right direction, and I just want you to let principals know that. We appreciate their focus. And I had a question in old age setting in.
Okay, well, while I'm thanking our Director of School Improvement, who's here in case there were questions I could not answer, Ms. Jenna McKeel has done an outstanding job with aligning that, and she excels in that area, and we're very proud of her. So I'm sure she will share that as well with her team. Did that help you think of your question? Okay, well, we'll be here if it comes back.
Dr. Coates,
Yes.
I too want to commend everybody for what they did. I sat in on some improvement plans a couple of years ago, and just reading through these, it definitely is focused on what we can do to student success and moving our schools in the right direction. In that light, are we going to be receiving updates periodically? How just seeing how these low performing schools are doing, or is it going to be just at the end of the year?
That is part of our plan. Is that is part of the formal quarterly update that will be presented to you for your data, your school notebooks. That we will update you on everything that has happened to that point in time associated with that process. With respect to the individual school goals, Ms. McKeel, are they posting quarterly or anything? Can you answer that question? We will have our data, but as far as progress toward the individual school goals, unless they just update those, we can request some information if we can do that. But there's not a formal school improvement plan other than what they do at the school level to update and measure their own progress on their goal. We will update our data performance and our benchmark data and all of that with respect to the data notebook. But we can ask that question. I don't have a problem asking that question. They will be glad to supply it, whatever they're doing. They'll be glad for you to have it. You're welcome.
Any more questions?
I remember what it was.
Okay.
Is there a time when we're going to get to talk with principals? And I may be a committee of one, but I absolutely loved bringing my school to the board. And as a board member, I love hearing principals brag about their schools once a year. Doesn't have to be long, but that has always been a really wonderful part of our connection with principals so that they know we're hearing and supporting their efforts. So I'm just wondering if there are any plans or thoughts about what that might look like.
We can find a plan to make that happen. I know like today we certainly heard from one school, but we can find a way to make that happen. I don't think there's a formal plan now, but that doesn't mean we can't develop one.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay.
Any more questions? This is an action item, school improvement plans and low performing action plans. If no questions, entertain a motion. Motion by Butler Hall, seconded by Vice Chair Johnston. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Thank you, Dr. Coates. Ms. Gill.
Good afternoon, Chairman Wooten, Vice Chair Ms. Johnson, members of the board, Mr. Lawrence and Dr. Renfro. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon. I have 4 items, 3 of which are for information today, and 1 is an action item. The first item is Board Exhibit 6C1, which is Policy 6040, informal bidding for construction or repair work costing less than $300,000. This policy was last revised in 2004, and general statute allows for informal bids for construction and repair contracts to be required from $30,000 rather than $5,000. Our current policy is at $5,000. Contracts involving expenditures exceeding $90,000 will require board approval, which is common practice with Johnston County Public Schools at this time. The legislation has been in place for us to enter into informal bids at the $30,000 range rather than $5,000, but our policy will require an amendment to bring it up to date. And upon the recommendation of Administration and Operations and our Policy Review Committee, Policy 6040 is presented for information. This is just for construction and repair work.
Any questions?
This will be presented for action next month.
Yes, ma'am. Did I say action?
No, you said information.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that everybody understood that information doesn't mean it stops. We have to really think about it and consider it.
Right.
Did have a big lunch, didn't you?
I'm telling you, that turkey, I don't know what happened.
Any other questions? Okay, Ms. Gill.
The second item is Board Exhibit 6C2, which is a new policy required by statute, which is the formation of a business advisory council. In response to the state statute, a new policy is required to detail the composition, appointment, and operation of a business advisory council. The council will provide assistance and guidance in the activities in our career and technical education program in our school system. And the initial composition of this council will be approved by the Board of Education. We are in compliance with that statute already, as Ms. Suzanne Lujan already has that well underway and will bring us more information when I bring it back to you in 30 days. And upon the recommendation of the Academic Innovation Department Policy Review Committee, the policy is presented for information today.
Any questions? No questions, Ms. Gill?
The next item is Board Exhibit 6C3, Contract Administration, Policy 7400. Policy 7400 provides guidance for entering into contracts, and the policy details items in which principals may enter into contracts. Schools routinely need to provide athletic supplies and materials. The amendment to this policy would allow principals to enter into a contract with an athletic vendor. We do, if you look on the policy itself, it lists several items that principals can enter into contracts with and for, and then it gives them the opportunity to enter into the athletic supplies and materials with adding this one. And we will, however, have all of these athletic contracts reviewed by our county athletic director, Mr. Walston. And so upon the recommendation of policy review, it's recommended to add athletic supplies and materials to the contracting authority that principals have. And any contracts exceeding $90,000, however, would continue to require board approval as per statute and policy. And this is recommended for information today as well.
Has it been a standard, Ms. Gill, for Mr. Walston to review the athletic contracts?
This would be a new procedure.
I like the procedure. Thank you. Any other questions? That's information, so Ms. Gill.
Yes,
move on.
and my final item today is Board Exhibit 6C4, the authorization to conduct a surplus sale whenever furniture or equipment has reached its usefulness to the school system, whether through age or disrepair. It's placed in storage, waiting to be declared surplus. And at this time, we would like to advertise a date and time of a sale in the local newspaper with a listing of all the items available, and they are attached in your agenda today. And the sale is set for December the 7th, and it's the recommendation of the staff at Facility Services that the board declare the items listed on the attached sheet as surplus and authorize a sale by the Facility Services staff. And this item is recommended today for approval.
Is it sealed bid or is it an open?
It's sealed bids.
Okay. Are employees allowed to?
Yes.
Okay, good. Any other questions? If not, entertain a motion. Motion by Ronald Johnston. Second by Todd Sutton. Any other questions at all? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
And that is all I have today.
Thank you, Ms. Gill. Mr. Vetrano.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Lady Vice Chair, board members, Dr. Renfro. Human Capital has two items for you today. One, an information item, the second, an action item. The first, Exhibit 6D1, is an information item. I would like to invite our finance officer, Mr. Art Stanley, to the podium.
Mr. Stanley, welcome to the meeting today.
Thank you. Well, I can't hold the mic right.
Don't look so excited.
Yes, no, it's all good news. Mr. Chairman, Ms. Vice Chairman, members of the board, Dr. Renfro, you have before you the June 30th, 2018 audit report. It was an unqualified opinion, which is the opinion that you want in an audit report. So that's good news. there's a lot of information here. We're going to cover 3 pages, and we're going to start at page 13. And if y'all really get sleepy tonight or bored, please read the rest of the pages, and you will go to sleep. But on page 13, I'll just draw your attention down to the last 3 numbers on the general fund, which is the fund balance section of our audit report. And you can see that we have $3.3 million that's assigned to this year's budget. We have $541,000 that's still sitting out there for retirement assessments. My understanding is that the state treasurer is probably going to appeal this to the state Supreme Court. It'll be up to the state Supreme Court if they will even bother to hear this. According to a conversation I had with Mr. Lawrence probably a couple of weeks ago, he does not seem to think that the state Supreme Court will even take this on, since we have won at each level up to this point in time. All that being said and done, that's $541,000 I can factor back into unassigned. I'm assuming, Mr. Lawrence, it'll be the whole 541. I know our former superintendent was a vast majority of that, and we got another employee that made up the difference. But the vast majority of it, since we won at all levels, will at least get put back in. I am not sure about the other employee at this time either. But we're guessing that all of it will be put back into unassigned. As you can see, unassigned was $2.7 million. It's about $32,000 off what it was last year at the same time. If you move over to capital outlay, you can see that the fund balance there is $1.2 million. As it stands right at this point in time. Y'all did approve some amendments back into consent items, so that down at the very bottom, far right, under general fund. Okay. I should be more explicit, probably. I've been over this enough in my head. Y'all have any questions on that particular page? If you do, any questions I can answer, y'all certainly will get you answers. But do y'all have any particular questions on that particular page? If not, we'll flip over to page 15. Underneath the general column, I'll draw your attention to total revenues. You can see we took in $60 million, almost $60,800,000 is basically what we took in last year. Of that, the county contributed $60,104,000, which is approximately 99% of the revenue that we received was from the county last year. If you look at total expenditures, you can see that we spent $63,291,000. So we obviously spent the money that the county gave us, plus we spent almost $2.5 million of our money. Last year's budget, we appropriated $5.7 million to go into the budget from fund balance. We used $2.5 million of that. So for people to say we don't spend the money we're given from the Friends Up the Road, we did this year, and we have in prior years as well. If you look at capital out, as I continue on general fund, as you can see, we did our revenue, our expenditures did exceed revenues by $2.5 million. Our fund balance at the beginning of last year was $9.3 million. It's now $6.8 million. So
that's the point I wanted you to address. Is it was $9 million last year,
and it's
$6 million
right
this
now.
year fund balance.
I'll throw this in as well. There is a House bill that was passed last year. House Bill 1031, if my memory is correct, on the House bill. Within that House bill, it will basically say how much fund balance a school system can have. There's a committee that has been gathered. That committee meets for the second time this Friday. Members of that committee I know personally are 3 finance officers from school systems. I believe there's also some county finance officers that are involved in it. I believe there's a person from I know there's a person from the local government commission involved in this committee as well. I believe someone from the School of Government is also part of it. And then you've got someone from the county commissioner organization that's also part of it. I believe they're tasked with having an answer to the General Assembly on how much a school system can have. I think it's by March or the end of March that they're supposed to have an answer for us. My guess is it's going to be a percentage, but a percentage of what? And that part I don't know. I could sit here and guess, but I don't know. I do feel comfortable with the ones that are representing us, because it's the gentleman from Wake County, a gentleman from Onslow County, and a lady from, I don't know the county the lady's from, but I believe it's a smaller county, maybe Cherokee County or somewhere in there. I believe that's there. So you got a mixture of large, big, and medium-sized in there. If you go over to capital outlay, you'll see where fund balance last year was 1.4. It's down to 1.2. So we did use $211,000 last year of our fund balance in capital outlay. Are there any specific questions on that page? If
Mr.
not,
Hart, is it safe to say in this House Bill 1031 that we're probably way below what the requirement would be to hold in our fund balance?
I can't answer that because I don't know what the percentage is going to be. I don't know if it's going to be a percentage of, say, just the current expense budget, or if it's going to be a percentage of state, federal, and local funds combined. If it's a percentage of this local budget, it's not going to be enough, again, in our opinion. If it's going to be all three funds combined in a certain percentage of that, then I would say yes, that probably would be enough. But not knowing what is going to come out of this committee, I can't answer that question because I don't really know. I do know that when Dr. Renfro and Mr. Wooten and myself met a couple, 3 weeks ago with the county manager, the county finance director, and a county commissioner, and he said, I believe he said, y'all quote me if I'm wrong, that he felt like $4 to $6 million was appropriate for us. So that's where we're at right now. And I got 6.8, we've got 3.3 going into this year's budget. So reality is we're probably going to be less than 6.8 going into next year.
Just for everybody's sake that's maybe watching and listening, we have restricted and unrestricted, right? The ones that we can get our hands on and ones that is dedicated we can't touch. Can you explain that and what our number is?
Go back to page 13. On page 13, and we're going to deal with cash and cash equivalents because I think that's kind of where your question is going to. And I'll also deal with the accounts receivables. And I'm going from memory from our meeting a couple of weeks ago, gentlemen, so y'all please jump in if I miss something here. If you look at the total far right column under total governmental funds, you see $15,728,000 that looks like we've got cash, and we do. But we can only get our hands on, out of that, 9.7. Other special revenue funds, that $2.2 million is made up of More at 4 funds, Medicaid funds, fee-for-service funds, are the 3 primary things that make up that funds. Those are restricted as to use. We cannot touch those funds. The next area is capital outlay, $1.3 million. It's its own checking account. It's its own separate fund, its own separate checking account. We can only use it for capital needs. Now, can we move that money to current expense? Yes, you can, but you got to follow general statutes. You got to have, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Lawrence, but you got to have county commissioner approval to move funds back and forth between capital outlay and current expense. And it's got to be for an unforeseen emergency. We don't have much in capital outlay anyway, so us moving money to general fund is probably not feasible. And then individual schools is $2.4 million, and that's money that sits at the individual schools. That's money that, again, that we cannot touch. So out of the $15 million, we can only touch 9. That's it. Now, I'm going to break that down a little bit further because this is where it's going to get really complex. Out of that 9, we've only got access to about 6. You say, oh, hard it says 9. Hey, you got access to 6. Well, built within that 9 is our dental account, which we're self-insured for dental, our payroll account, and our hospitalization account. So even though they're their own checking accounts for financial statement purposes, for audit purposes, they combine it together. But they also recognize that as a liability. So if you subtract the 9.7 that you see up there from our total liabilities of 3.1, you get 6.1 million. You get $6.6 million. Add the 3 bottom figures down at the bottom, that 3.3, that 541, and that 2.7, you get the same thing, 6.6 million. They got to equal. So we only have access to approximately $6.6 million in cash that we can get our hands on as of June 30th, 2018. Does that pretty much answer your question?
Yes, and a follow-up is, you know, 069, 024, and 032, are they going to be, you know, the rumor is they're going to be cut again. Is that something that you have heard?
You said 024, 069, and who? 032. I don't know. We won't know till we get a state budget, and that won't happen till probably May or June.
Because I've heard people are holding off because they've heard cuts and, you know, even things that they need. They've held off due to the cuts that are coming or they've heard rumors of.
Are you talking about state cuts or internal cuts that we may have to impose? We won't. I'll have to turn that one over to Dr. Renfro, because I don't know the answer to that question.
I think you answered it well. You don't know what we're getting from the state until August or September of next year, so we can't, if there's a crystal ball out there that can tell the future, please let us have access. But our principals know that they have to prepare for the worst in this day and time, and unless they know for sure that they're going to have money in hand as they have had in the past, they probably don't need to theorize that they're going to be able to fund something because, you know, think about the EC shortfall, having to make up approximately $4 million internally, and just think about what the state sends us has been diminishing over time. So, you know, I hope there are no cuts next year. But I think that would be folly if we sit here and say that in order to run a balanced budget that we wouldn't have to possibly make cuts internally.
Yeah, I know we're getting into the weeds, but while we're talking about money and a lot of our local use funds are because we don't get the proper funding for EC children from the state. And the reason is over identification or whatever that term is, but has there been any movement or conversation about the calculation of exceptional children?
None.
And that takes, what, $6 to $7 million of our local funding that,
$4 million.
well, $2 million, guess high. But $4 to $5 million in our local funding that we could use for other things if they were properly funded by the state, would be a lot better off as well. But go ahead, Art.
I want to add one thing for the public who are watching this. There are things that we have to pay for, like storm damage, like chillers that go out, and roofs that sometimes are upward to $500,000 to $1 million each. Is that some of the things that this fund balance can be used for?
You know, in an emergency situation, yes. But as you can see, unassigned is only now it's 2.5 because of the amendment y'all did today, which I do thank you for. But you're down to 2.5, and so yeah, if it was an emergency situation, we go through county commissioners to have some of that money moved over to handle the emergency situations. Then yes, it could be, and we've actually done that in the past in prior years.
Thank you.
The one last thing is, you know, we're sitting talking about EC shortfall. I mean, let's face it, it's probably going to be there next year and the year after that and the year after that if we don't lobby to our General Assembly and everything else for that calculation to be increased because, correct me if I'm wrong, state mandate says we can't turn away somebody that has that IEP and everything to go along with it. But yet we're over 16% in our school system now. So, but that's where our major shortfall is. So we have to be proactive and start looking at some of the ways that we can continue to take care of this need and the shortfall. And if our fund balance is what it is today, eventually it's going to be zero if we continue to have these EC shortfalls.
Well, now, Mr. Sutton, I have spoken to our legislative delegation, each member, specifically about this, but they have yet to be able to build any traction. And so I would welcome any member around this board to talk to our elected officials who sit in the General Assembly, have spoken to the state superintendent, as have other superintendents across the state. So please do not take it as a sign of inactivity on your superintendent's part that we still have this conundrum. But the folks that are empowered are not listening to what superintendents have to say, that we need help in this area, and why won't you help us? And so it's about spending priorities. So if you or any others feel like they can make inroads with any elected official, your help is needed and necessitated.
And we certainly realize it's not any inactivity on your behalf or any behalf of someone on the school system side. I think the thing we're posturing for here is a continued justification of why we need the money we need, and this has been ongoing before I was here, and it will go on after I'm here. However, there are those out there, whether they be local, county, state, federal officials, that would like for us to spend our fund balance down to zero every year, which that is extremely dangerous and unhealthy. When you're responsible for educating, feeding, and employing so many people, if you spend your savings down to zero, you're putting yourself in a hazardous situation, and that is just unfruitful and irresponsible thinking to believe we can spend it down to zero and start over. So while we're weighing in with all this commentary on finances, I think it's very important for the public to realize we're talking about this because there are a select few who believe that we don't need a rainy day fund. We don't need any additional funds. We should give it all back, which is completely irresponsible. So just think why we should let the public know this is why we're entertaining this. This is why we're talking about this. So thank you.
And I appreciate all the comments. I would like to say that Art, I know he's in his office and away from the public normally, but he will meet with anybody that wants an understanding of our balance sheet, and he can put it in simple terms, and he'll be willing to meet with anybody that wants to come in and understand the funding of Johnston County Public Schools. And Art, I know this looks like Chinese to a lot of people,
It is.
but you do and you do simplify it. But it is a great issue for Johnston County Public Schools with the way we're growing and the funding needs that we need. And if we don't voice them as board members and as citizens, then it's going to keep going the same direction it's going. So I urge everybody that, and it's all of us that live in Johnston County, that you're vested in this public school system, and it's the future of Johnston County and the economics of Johnston County, and our students and the future of our students. So we all need to be pulling on the pants legs of all our legislatures to let them know how we feel. But go ahead, Art.
I'm going to go back to House Bill 1031 just 1 minute because I know I'm over my time. Built within that bill also was not only a fund balance issue, but it was also deals with our suing of the county commissioners. We cannot take them to court for current expense. You can take them to court for capital outlay, but you cannot current expense. Once they pass their budget, you've got a certain period of time. You can either say we accept this or reject it. If we say we reject it, then it goes to arbitration. Both parties pay for the mediator, and it's all said and done by August 1st. If my memory is correct, and I had to go back and read the House bill, but there's a formula built in to where if they don't give you any more money and the mediator says you get some, there's a formula built in. The formula is, I'm going from memory, they look at last year's transactions. Now, there's a difference in transactions and what you got from the county. This year it wouldn't have been a problem because our transactions were 63 million. They gave us 60 million, not a problem. But let's say our transactions were 59 million and they gave us 60 million. Now you got a minor problem because they're going to base it on transactions. You didn't spend all the county money. They take those transactions and they will multiply it times some consumer price index figure going back to the second quarter of the prior year. And that figure could be 3% or 2% or whatever it is. And that was the amount of money that you get. So if they give us 60 million last year and the transactions were 60 million and we didn't agree on what they gave us and we all go to arbitration, then it goes based on that formula. So it's not the old days. I think General Assembly got tired of the lawsuits between both parties, and this was their way of solving it. They did leave the window open for capital outlay, however, but only for capital outlay. Our problems are both, but at least in capital outlay, we can go to court if we need to, but we cannot go to court for general expense. I know that's not good news, but it's what we have to deal with at this point in time.
Well, Mr. Stanley, I feel confident. I believe there's 14 on the board among all of us, and it's fair to say we always don't get along, and some of us don't like each other, but that's the last place I think any of us want to end up is in a courtroom in arbitration. I feel certain that we are all committed to finding a solution without wasting the people's time of any arbitration or court proceedings. So I feel confident.
Well, that is the House bill in kind of a nutshell. That makes for interesting reading if you'd like to read it too.
You mentioned a formula. When Kay Carroll and J.H. Langdon were on the school board, on the county commissioners, J.H. was on the county commissioners, Kay Carroll was on the school board. They came around to every school and did a public meeting, and there was a formula developed. It was based on growth. It was based on revenues and identified needs. That formula went away some period of time. I don't remember how long it's been gone, but has there been any discussion about the local formula and maybe reinstating something that would not have us in the begging mode every year, that we could just say, here are our 1,200 student data, our 1,200 student increase, and we have to have schools, and we have to have buses, and we have to have roofs? Has there been any talk about that?
I'll defer to our superintendent.
Yes, ma'am. A couple of years ago, I'd asked Mr. Stanley to reach out to a couple systems down east that do local budgeting based on a per capita formula, and to get information so that we could share with our funders over in the courthouse. And so we gathered that information and shared it, but it just doesn't seem like it's made any traction.
One last page, page 22, which deals with school nutrition. Yes, sir. This will be the last page that I will do. On page 22, I'll just draw your attention down to where it says income, losses in brackets before transfers and contributions. You can see that figure's in brackets, $1.5 million. A lot of things went and contributed to the loss of our net loss of $1.5 million. Two things. One is revenue was down approximately 530. Revenue and federal reimbursements was down 534,000, and then food sales, it was down 120,000. So you're looking at over $600,000 that revenue was down last year. Probably several things contributed to that. One is the free and reduced percentage went down from 46% in 16-17 to 43% in 17-18. So we lost 3% free and reduced lunch, therefore federal reimbursements went down. I understand that there was some inclement weather last year. There were 5 days that were forgiven. Those 5 days also contributed to the loss of income as well. The other thing, and the other big thing, is the expenses. And this is the Chinese part. The Governmental Accounting Standard Board, which writes the policies or writes the guidelines we ought to follow for accounting principles. And this is a national organization. This is nationwide. It's not anything specific to Johnston County or anything like that. So when I tell you it's Governmental Accounting Standard Board number 75 that created some of our issue, this is a nationwide issue. So every system, city, county, small municipality, and school system will deal with this school year. In the state of North Carolina, you've got a $25 billion liability in hospitalization insurance. So folks like myself, Dr. Renfro, Mr. Frano, retiree, Mr. Hall, and Dr. Smith, the state pays for our hospitalization insurance when we retire. That's a $25 billion liability. The General Assembly's been on the pay-as-you-go system, so there's no money to pay for this liability. Our current state treasurer is trying to work at this the best that he can. I say all that to say this. IDAP's share, this pronouncement number 75 they came out with, says that out of that $25 billion, Johnston County Schools' share of that is $400 million, right out $400 million. Now, we're going to have to pay that, and answer that question is no. But they want us to show it on our financial statements, just like Johnston County's got showed on their financial statements, just like the town of Smithfield's got showed on their financial statements. All of us have to show it. So it's not, again, it's not a school system issue. Correct. That's part of the reason. They had to put in the expense portion of that was about $370,000. So expenses went up, revenue went down, therefore it created some of the $1.5 million. If you really look down there, you'll see that the net position ended the year was $12 million. The child nutrition share of that, or excuse me, school nutrition share of that, $400 million was $12 million, right at $12 million. So that's kind of why they're kind of in the shape they're in. But again, revenue was down, the expenses were up, and we're trying to see what we can do better. Also, that impacts our cash flow, and we've had to help them out in fund too a little bit this school year to get through some payrolls and stuff like that at this point in time as well. So we've actually had to use some of that 2.7 to slide right now over to child nutrition to help them get through until they can get some money coming in.
Just one question about your comments. Did you say free and reduced lunch student count went down, which caused our funding to go down, or did you say the funding percentage went down per student?
The number of students who got free and reduced lunch went down from 46% to 43% based on the numbers that I got from Ms. Edwards this morning. As a result, your reimbursements would go down because the number of kids getting free and reduced went down.
Well, you could spend the whole day with Mr. Stanley and with this financial statement. It's all very interesting to me. I don't know about you, but there's a lot of moving parts. But any questions for him today? Thank you, Mr. Stanley. No questions. That's pretty good.
You can do the school calendar.
Thank you, Mr. Stanley.
Yes.
The second item that we have for you is an action item, 6D2, Makeup Day plans for October 11th. As you know, students and staff missed school on October 11th due to Hurricane Michael, and therefore we shared with you Makeup Day plans, and we appreciate your assistance in allowing us to communicate those plans before today's meeting with our community members, staff, and students. That information has been shared widely, but we're bringing this to you now to receive formal approval for those Makeup Day plans for October 11th.
Any questions for Mr. Vetrano? Entertain a motion. Motion by Mr. Johnston.
Second.
Second by Ms. Teresa Grant. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Thank you.
Ms. Roberts. We'll get through E and then we'll take a break. A break and closed session.
Good afternoon, Mr. Wooten, Lady Vice Chair Johnson, members of the board, and Dr. Renfro. Our news coverage summary, as you know, I always like to make a few comments about that because of the fact that Johnston County Public Schools is so viable and vibrant, and we like to stay relevant. And so when you receive your news coverage report, to just note that we always have at least 100 stories to share with you. Some of them may not be the most positive stories, but the fact that we are a business that we run on behalf of students means that there will be some interest in some very hard news stories. but we want you to know that we're working very hard to ensure that we get that good news out in front. So you do have that news coverage summary. Our save the date has no dates in it because for November, of course, we're looking forward to Thanksgiving. So we hope that each of you have a very safe Thanksgiving. But I did want to mention to you that this week is School Psychologist Week. We just found that out. We have about 19 school psychologists, and school psychologists are uniquely qualified members of our school families because they support the students' ability to learn. And we just want to thank them personally for the work that they do on behalf of our students and teachers. And with that, I pitch this to Mr. Wooten for the planning documents information.
I did attend the Johnston County Planning Board this past month, and yes, there were additional subdivisions approved each and every month I go. So it each to Johnston County Public Schools, and as far as infrastructure of building new schools and or placement of mobile units, it's a challenge. And you know, we're blessed to have developers and new citizens moving into this county, but it brings challenges to the school system and hiring employees and making sure that we have a desk for each and every student. So I encourage you to continue to engage our commissioners as far as growth plans and funding and proper placement of bond referendums to make sure that we continue to grow in an efficient manner and make sure that our students have a good learning environment to sit in and learn each and every day. So with that being said, we'll take a break after Dr. Renfro reads his spiel.
Thank you, Mr. Wooten. Mr. Chairman, I ask that the board enter into executive session for the purpose of consulting with the board attorney and to discuss personnel items in accordance with North Carolina General Statutes 115C-319 and 143.318.11 subsections A1 and A3.
Thank you, Dr. Renfro. Entertain a motion. Motion Ronald Johnson, second Todd Sutton. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Let's take a part of our meeting. So welcome to the boardroom. This is your boardroom. So if you have a student or you want to take pictures, please feel free to come behind the board, and you can roam anywhere in this boardroom you want to. And we look forward to the recognition this afternoon. Ms. Roberts.
Good afternoon again. And as you said, Mr. Wooten, this is our favorite portion of the agenda. The business is important, but we are about the business of these young people. So we'll start with our character education recognitions. And as I call your name, if you'll come and stand beside me at the podium, and for parents and family members, please feel free to step forward and take pictures of your young person as he or she is recognized. So our first student comes to us from North Johnston High School, where the lead learner is Dr. Ben Williams. Our 12th grade student's name is Oscar Verdusco, and if you'll join me here at the podium, Mr. Verdusco. Let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Oscar Verdusco. He is a senior at North Johnston High School, and he is representing the school for the character trait responsibility. The character trait responsibility is defined as being accountable for your own actions. Oscar exemplifies this trait each and every day at North Johnston High School. His teachers attest to Oscar's responsibility in the classroom by his efforts to ensure that his assignments are complete and that his work is acceptable. One example of this is Oscar taking the responsibility upon himself to complete his graduation requirements a semester early in order to enlist in the United States Marine Corps. As a result, Oscar will graduate in December and be at Paris Island by January. Oscar is extremely active in the North Johnston High School AFJROTC. Last year, he was going to be attending leadership school for the first time. He was told by his ROTC instructors that North Johnston High School had never won the Ironman competition at Converse College. He and his father started training in push-ups, sit-ups, and the 1-mile run. In the Ironman qualifier, he ran a 4.34 mile. He then completed 100 push-ups in 60 seconds. A few of the, I'll let you just ooh and ah for just a minute, because, yeah, that blows my mind as well. A few of the other instructors from other schools claimed he didn't do them right and made comments like, "I can't even do that many." Colonel Markle told the instructor that Oscar would be glad to do it again with him watching. When Colonel Markle asked Oscar if he would be willing to do it again, Oscar responded, "Just tell me when and where, sir." Oscar Verdusco is the example of responsibility for himself, his team, and his school. He will be an excellent Marine. Ladies and gentlemen, Oscar Verdusco. I failed to mention Oscar's parent, Philip Verdusco, and you had someone else here with you as well, correct? Who was that? Okay, all right, great. Well, we are so very proud of you, and if you will accept this certificate of our appreciation and a small gift. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You're very welcome. That's yours.
Ms. Roberts, if you don't mind, Oscar, I think you got a Marine waiting for you in the back, but I can always recognize the Marine uniform, and sir, with Veterans Day, it's Veterans Day to me every day. I appreciate your service, sir. Thank you.
Coming to us from North Johnston Middle School is 8th grade student Josh Meekums. His principal is Kenneth Sumler, the lead learner there at North Johnston Middle. His parent is Sheila Brown. So let me tell you a little bit about Josh. Josh Meekums was selected to represent responsibility for a number of reasons. Josh has been meticulous with his schoolwork since becoming a student at North Johnston Middle and often makes straight A's on his report card. Not only does Josh do well academically, but he is also a captain of the football team and is a member of the National Honor Society. Josh goes above and beyond to help others and has many leadership qualities. He became a member of the Reach Out Club last year and chose to be a member again this year. The club's purpose is to help make the school an even better place to be and to help others. Additionally, our technology teacher has stated that once Josh completes his work for her class, he always asks her if there is something else he can do to help. He assists her with Chromebook repairs and any other items she may need assistance with. At the end of the last school year, Josh was also a tremendous help to the counselors. He and a couple of other students prepared a PowerPoint presentation and presented it to visiting 5th graders. He shared information about the school and served as a tour guide in order to ensure a smooth transition for them. The presentation was not graded and was not even an assignment for class. Josh was asked to help because the counselors knew he was responsible and could be counted on to do an exceptional job. Ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you Mr. Josh Meekums. Josh, please accept this as a small token of our appreciation. We're so very proud of you. You're very welcome. Our next student comes to us from Polenta Elementary School, and he is 4th grade student Tyler Williams. The lead learner at Polenta is Christina Benson, and Tyler's parents are Jatana and Chris Williams. So here's a little bit about Tyler. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, synonyms of responsible are dependable, good, reliable, safe, secure, solid, steady, sure, and trustworthy. All of these adjectives can be used to describe Tyler Williams. This is especially true when it comes to helping his fellow classmates and acting unselfishly. Tyler is always going out of his way to help others who are in need in order to ensure that they are successful. His principal once observed him unselfishly help a fellow student gather his materials to ensure that he was prepared for class before he even had his own materials ready for the day. Additionally, Tyler takes personal ownership of his own learning goals and works diligently to ensure that he is meeting those goals. He is respectful to his teachers and always willing to assist them throughout the day. Tyler is a leader in the classroom and is a great example of what it means to be a responsible and caring individual. For these reasons, he is Polenta Elementary's representative for responsibility. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Tyler Williams. Tyler, we so appreciate you. Keep up the good work and all the best to you. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, from Powhatan Elementary School comes 5th grade student Landon Kirshner. I did it right, didn't I? Yes. Thank you so much. The lead learner is Mr. Dan Kerwin. His parents are Matthew and Larissa Kirshner. Now, here's a little bit about Landon. Landon Kirshner is a 5th grade student at Powhatan Elementary School. As a 5th grade student, Landon is the model of personal responsibility. He takes the time to personally connect with his teachers to make sure that he is on the right track in understanding his assignments. Unsolicited, he never fails to let his teachers know where he stands on his assignments, and he always takes ownership of when his assignments are due. Landon always takes the time as well to thank his teachers for supporting his learning each day. He is very organized and knows how to plan out what he needs to do each day to make sure his work is done with quality and on time. He has a personal standard of responsibility and excellence that is enviable. Landon goes out of his way to help other students be successful in group and partner assignments. He will choose a partner that he thinks needs help and will work diligently to make sure his partner or his group is as successful as they can be. As educators, we appreciate the idea of a student having an old soul. To us, an old soul is a younger student who seems to be wise beyond their years and who appears to be incredibly empathetic to others, both young and old. Landon takes the time to formulate questions and conversations that he can share with his teachers to ensure that he stays connected with the adults in his academic life. Bet you didn't know you were being watched like that, did you? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you Mr. Landon Kirshner. Landon, we are so very proud of you. We know we'll be reading about you one day, or you may be sitting up here, huh? All right. Our next recognition are the winners of this year's Adult Spelling Bee. West Johnston High School is the 2018-19 winner of the Johnston County Education Foundation's Adult Spelling Bee. And I'd like for Ms. Brandy Crocker to come to the podium and introduce that team and her board chair. And we would be remiss if we did not share with you that the lead learner at West Johnston is Ms. Jennifer Swartz. And here we are ready to hear from our Education Foundation Director, Ms. Crocker.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having us today. I gotta move it down. I'm not as tall as Mike is. The Johnston County Education Foundation does a couple fundraisers, as you know, a year. One of them being the Adult Spelling Bee, which is a fun event. I actually have two of my board members sitting here today, Mr. Todd Sutton and Dr. Peggy Smith, have served on our board for many, many years. The winning team this year was West Johnston High School, and I'm horrible because I don't remember everybody's names, so I'm going to let them introduce themselves when they come up. We actually had 72 teams this year, and they came out as the winners, so I'm pretty excited about that. I know they have a special place in Dr. Coates' heart as well. If y'all want to come on up, you can go ahead and say your name, and we'll go from there. We do have a picture of the winning team up, and Ms. Schwartz, come say hi to your...
Brandy, were they good spellers, or they just have pockets full of money?
I think a little bit of both,
Okay.
but they had... Yes. Oh, see, there you go. They had 2 tickets left over. And the whole last round, you can't use the extra byword, so they stayed through the end.
Wow.
Shannon Ferguson.
Brad Dean.
Heather Arp.
Robin Cawthorn.
Jennifer Swartz.
That's awesome.
While they're coming around, I also want to say Miss Dorothy Johnson served on the foundation board for many, many, many years.
Congratulations. Now, before they leave, I might need Miss Heather Arp's help because I do want you to know what the word was, the winning word. Heather, can you help me with that?
Yes. Phytosuccivores.
And that really warmed her heart because she's...
It's a science word.
It's
I
a
was super
science
excited
word.
about it.
Mm-hmm. So this year's bee raised $13,000, and those monies go towards grants for our teachers and go straight into the classroom. So thank you, Ms. Crocker.
Thank y'all for having us.
Our next item is a recognition of our retiring board members.
Ms. Hall, you want to come up to the podium and join me, please? I know. On behalf of our Board of Education and our board chair, we want to present you this plaque. It says Butler Hall, Board Member, Johnston County Public Schools, in honor of 12 years of service as a board member, because I know it's a lot more as a public educator in general. It says providing leadership to engage each student in relevant and personalized learning experiences in preparation for careers, college, and life. Presented today, 2018. Thank you, sir. Dr. Smith.
This is called a tribute to Butler Hall. Who has served children for 40-plus years? Probably 50 years?
We're not counting.
Okay. Butler Hall is the answer, said through tears. You taught, you coached, you served children well. You were a great principal, as facts tell. Then you retired, and somehow you just knew that there was something important left to do. So you, dear friend, ran for school board and won. Children were the winners when this was done. For 12 short years, we can all truly say that you put children first in every way. Your insight and wisdom are always right. You are a member who fought the good fight. Each policy, new leader, or new school is based on practicing the golden rule. You have great faith that is second to none. So leaving just means your work here is done. Great work it was, and for that we thank you. May God bless whatever else you may do.
Lady Vice Chair, would you join us at the podium, please? In recognition of your service, this plaque, Dorothy Johnson, Vice Chair, Johnston County Public Schools, in honor of 20 years of service as a Board of Education member, providing leadership to engage each student in relevant and personalized learning experiences in preparation for careers, college, and life. Today, 2018. Just thank you for all you've done, Ms. Johnson. We appreciate your sage wisdom and counsel, and Godspeed and best wishes in all that you do.
And this is a tribute to Vice Chair Dorothy Johnson. Okay. I'm good. Vice Chair Johnson served well for 20 years, but today we all say goodbye through tears. Thank you for always leading with your heart, with all of it, not just a part. You never settle for the status quo. We appreciate that more than you know. We cherish the dreams that you helped come true. New schools, new leaders, and policies too. In all decisions, you put children first. You helped ignite learning, hunger, and thirst. Thank you, too, for all the training you've done. Some were intense, but we always had fun. Thank you for being at schools and events. Thank you for fighting to raise supplements. Thank you for sharing your wisdom and prayers. Folks have always said that Ms. Johnston cares. Your contributions have set the bar high. We're sad to bid you a tearful goodbye. May God bless you and keep you, our dear friend. We are so sad to see your tenure end.
Yeah, I don't, since I'm the chairman, I guess I get the podium. I didn't plan on speaking while I was up here, but you know, it's Miss Dorothy, and I call her Miss Dorothy. Might as well call her my mom, but Vice Chair Johnson and Butler Hall. You always say that your shoes can, I don't know if their shoes can be filled. The wisdom that they've given me as a board member, they've been here my whole tenure on the Board of Education, and what they bring to the table and what we're losing. We got some great people coming in, but the wisdom and education background that we're losing is vital to Johnston County. And I know that you won't be Board of Education members after December, but you'll still have a lot to do in Johnston County Public School System. Butler, you know, you're more than just a board member. I know your heart. For many years, the service that you've given your wife and the heart that you have for students is unremarkable. And, you know, I've seen your heart. When I was sick, you were there. Through the difficulties of the times we have, we won't always agree as a Board of Education, but the wisdom of Butler and giving me phone calls and advice, I can't give back. And you're a true friend. When I see you, I see God. You have the heart of the Lord and Savior, and you can see it all over you, and you live it each and every day, and I appreciate you. Ms. Dorothy, you know, I've always had diversity in my life, but you helped me embrace it even more, the importance of a diverse school system and the importance of having teachers and administrators and board members to match our diversity in our school system is vitally important to me, and I will continue to beat that drum for you. And I appreciate you. We're blessed in Johnston County Public Schools to have godly board members that live by the word. And when I see these two board members, I do see God and the steps y'all take and the love that you have for children. And I just hope I can continue to carry that torch for y'all and do what you've done over the many years of service to this county, not only as board members, but as administrators and teachers as well. I love y'all.
Can we have Ms. Johnston, Mr. Hall in the center, and then both of them out of sight? You guys reach your plaques, you want those in a quick one, or right down here, or you good with those? Thank you.
I welcome any other board members that would like to make comments to either come from where you're sitting or come to the podium. Either one.
Mr. Butler, it seems like yesterday I was walking in your office at North Johnston High School, and you were needing a soccer coach. I'd refereed for 15 or 16 years at that time in high school soccer, and your soccer coach had just quit about a week before tryouts. Mr. Doug Parnell reached out to me and wanted to know if I would be willing to take on that task. I'd been on the other side of the whistle. This time I was on the coaching side of the whistle. You gave me that opportunity, and I'll never forget, Dr. Renfro was your assistant principal at the time, him coming into that meeting and us having a great conversation. And I took on the journey of the high school boys and girls that year. And I'll never forget the times that you came out and supported us, the times that you came to all the sporting events. But more importantly, you taught me how to be a better husband, because I saw you take care of your wife. And that's something that I'll never forget, because you never missed a sporting event. You always sat in the corner of the gym and watched them and cheered on the teams, basketball teams, whatever sport it was. But more importantly, I looked up at you because you were a godly man. I'll never forget that. And to this whole board, 2 years ago, you appointed me to this board, the unanimous decision. I appreciate that from the bottom of my heart. Nobody, it was everybody that decided that, and you know, I've hoped that I can uphold that opinion of what you did that day and make you proud, continue to make you proud. I love you. Miss Dorothy, what a great woman. Always got a smile on her face. You know, what happens in this boardroom in closed session, we always go out locked arms in unity, and that's how it's got to be for every student, over 37,000 students in this system, and over 5,000 employees, because we're the ones that they look at. We're the ones that they want to make sure that we're in all of one accord when we go out of this room, and make sure that we press forward Johnston County Public Schools. We are the #1 economic driver in this county, as the growth tells that. But I'll never forget, Miss Dorothy, when I first got on this board, I started showing you my socks. And every time you always ask, what kind of socks do I have on today? Rest assured that I will continue that, whether you're here or not. I will text you a picture of my socks. Since you haven't seen them today, Miss Dorothy. But you've shown me a lot in the year and a half, almost 2 years I've been on this board. And as I told Mr. Butler, I can see a lot of traits that you put your heart and soul into this Johnston County Board of Education. And that's what it takes, and that's what every board member should set out to do when they come on this board. It's not for one, it's for all. And I can assure you that I'm going to continue that torch in that position. I love you, and thank you for what you mean for Johnston County Board of Education and everybody in this system. God bless each and every one of y'all.
Before we got started today, well, while we got started early in the meeting, I wrote a note to Dr. Smith, and I said, it just feels weird in here today. Something feels off, and reminds me of something I heard, here at the Board of Education, we fight for teachers and children, and no matter what you see in the public, we're doing it together. We may disagree, but we've always done it together. But the feeling in here reminded me of, fighting for something here, and we all are. And, 1964, Ronald Reagan gave a famous speech called A Time for Choosing, where he referenced Winston Churchill by saying, there's something going on in time and space, and there's something going on beyond time and space. And whether we accept it or not, it means we have a duty. And I say that to say this, Mr. Hall, Ms. Johnson, you have certainly done your duty, and everyone owes you a debt of gratitude. And I can't thank you enough. And although Winston Churchill and Ronald Reagan are two great men, one greater said this about service in Matthew, I believe, 25:21 or 25:23, well done, thy good and faithful servant. You guys have served people tirelessly, and we're in a transition phase right now where new board members are coming on and old ones are leaving. And I just want to assure both of you that we're in the most capable hands that are not your own. Thank you for everything. And, we haven't always seen eye to eye, and, I could tell some funny stories, but I do remember Miss Johnson. It was one of the heated debates, and I was sitting right here, and I was just looking straight ahead, and she came up and she put her arm here, and she said, "Are you mad?" And I said, "A little bit, Miss Johnson." She hugged me. She said, "Don't be mad," and I'll never forget that. And we have some different philosophies, but you guys have taught me a lot, and I've learned a lot from you. And Miss Johnson, I don't know if you remember this a year ago when I came up and said, thank you for always being nice to me. And no matter what you see, no matter what you hear, we're all working together, and we all have worked together. But thank you so much, Mr. Hall. Thank you so much, Miss Johnson. It was a pleasure to serve with you.
Hey, Ronald, she always reminding you got the same last name, too. She always reminded Ms. Grant.
Well, I'll start by saying if y'all taught Ronald a lot, y'all did a lot right there. So we thank you for that. Mr. Butler, I've known you for a long time, longer than I've known probably anybody here. Appreciate the man that you are. All that you've done. Miss Dorothy, I told you when I first came on the board that you reminded me of my grandmother. A strong, wonderful woman. I want to thank you for all that you've done. 2 years ago, Ronald, Todd, and myself, we were the rookies. It's hard to believe that, you know, we're not going to be the rookies anymore. We have 2 more coming on board, and we're thankful for you. The tears don't mean that I'm not thankful for you. And I hope that we can be as good of mentors to them and as welcoming and embracing of them as you were to all of us. It's my honor to have served with you both and with each member of this board. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rank. Mr. Hall, Ms. Dr. Smith, Dr. Renfro. There's a lot of doctors up here.
I'm just Ross, but yeah, I said what I need to say at the podium. Thank you.
Dr. Smith.
I read this little tribute, but I do want to say I love you both, and I just appreciate, as Teresa said, you're mentoring us, and they're never too tired to have a long conversation, but I appreciate it all.
Mr. Hall.
I look back over the years, and the Lord has just tremendously blessed my life. For a long, it seemed like forever to me, I struggled with what I was supposed to do in life. And I took a job at a small school in South Carolina with a provisional certificate because I was going to be drafted. And I told the principal that, and he said, well, just help us as long as you can. And I did. But the first day that I walked in the classroom and started working with those boys and girls, I knew what the Lord had for me to do with my life. And things haven't always been easy, but I've always had the satisfaction of knowing that I was doing what I was supposed to do. And I never had a bad job in education. Wherever I taught, the kids were great. The faculty was great. Just good jobs, good people. And I believe in my heart that the Lord put me where I was at different times for specific reasons. And you know, I never thought about being an administrator, but the Lord opened that door, and probably 10 of my best years was at North Johnston. And great kids and great people. Some of them have gone on, but I learned a lot, and I think probably one of the best decisions I ever made in education was the day that Ross Renfro walked in my office looking for a job, and driving an old raggedy Jeep Wrangler. But these are the kinds of people that the Lord has blessed me to be around and to get to know. And I look back over, you know, the little school in South Carolina or at North Myrtle Beach or Cleveland School, Clayton High School, and then North Johnston. They were just all just wonderful, wonderful jobs. And now, you know, I'm at a place where, you know, I think it's time for me to go home and put the collar on my Cocker Spaniel and go for a walk. Thank y'all for everything.
Can you get it? Okay. I would also like to add my thank you to all the board members and people of Johnston County, all the citizens and young people. I've been in Johnston County a long time. I hail from Petersburg, Virginia. And then upon graduation from college, I selected North Carolina to come to work through the North Carolina Agricultural Extension Service as their home economist. And I thought I would stay 1 year. Each time I would stay 1 year. Then I was promoted to Johnston County as the head home economics agent in this county. I've learned people in this county. I know people all over the county. Wherever I go, people know me and people recognize me. And my husband is here also. He's from Virginia, military, U.S. Army. But I've got some Marines in the family too. But he also selected to stay here. We have 2 beautiful children that went through the Johnston County school system. I have a daughter, Rachel Renee, and a son, Ronald II. I was going to do this.
You'll be okay.
They graduated with honors from Clayton High School through the whole system. My daughter had the highest average in her schoolwork. She had the most scholarships than any child. Both went on to North Carolina school system. They enjoyed it. Little Ron was at Chapel Hill, chemistry major. My daughter, UNC Greensboro, chemistry major. She is now Dr. Rachel Johnson. My son is doing what Todd is doing in chemistry in the pharmacy department, and he loves it, and both of them. And they're now in California. And they keep saying, Mama, when you're going to come home to California and be with us? And I said, no, I don't ever go to California, not now with the wildfires, no. So, but
Plus you get sick every time.
And I get sick every time I get on the plane. And I bring it here, and it lasts a long time, and he's got it now. But I'm a college grad, like I mentioned, and my philosophy in education when I was in college, when I was a senior, was to help people, to help young people, or to help people that are deprived, underprivileged, and that was my philosophy. And that's why I took the job with the Cooperative Extension Service, because that's what their goal was. And of course, I ended up being one of the top agents in the state, been recognized nationally as well as locally and statewide. But that's not it. It's nice to know that you have your coworkers that think so much of you and really appreciate what you're doing for people. I really supervise the FNEP program, which you may not have heard of before, but it's a low-income homemakers program with the Cooperative Extension Service, nutrition program. And that's one thing that we did, was to make sure that every homemaker in Johnston County had an opportunity for a balanced meal. They ate good. And of course, when I retired with 30 years now with Cooperative Extension Service, it was at home for me. I said, well, I can just stay at home and tend to my flowers and whatever. And then I decided that, no, I didn't decide. I committed to the school system when Shirley Cohen called my home and asked me if I would come to the school system and head up the pregnancy program to help young mothers with early pregnancy or prevent pregnancy in Johnston County school systems? And I said, yes, I'd be glad to. And it was on a contractual basis, which means I just would get paid every 6 months, something like that. But that didn't matter because I was working with young people. I was working with children, and I was helping these girls to stay in school. And that was my goal. And I finished that. And then, of course, before I could get through with that one, I was asked by Dr. Houlihan to come in and serve as on his TQE school system, the quality Education Quality Committee. And I said, oh, yes, I can't say no, so I said yes. Then when Dr. James Cosby came on board, he said, okay, I want you to head up the bond referendum. I said, okay, I'd be glad to do that. And that was the first bond we passed with Dr. Jim Cosby. And I also worked with him with TQE as well. And so I just loved it. And each time I think that I'm going to retire. I'm not going to do anything else. I would just stay at home. And each 4 years, I end up saying yes, yes, and I did. But a few years ago, I did have bypass surgery. And I thought that would be the end of it, but it didn't bother me. I kept right on going because I knew that the young people in this county, by me sitting on this board, they saw someone on the board that they could recognize, especially our African-American children. And that was my goal, was to continue to be a role model for all of the children, not just African-American, but all the children in Johnston County, because they all were my children, I felt like. So I thought that that would be most likely the end. And I kept going, and then Dr. Renfro came along, and I said, we're going to want him to be the superintendent. And he said later on, I told him, I said, I've changed my mind. I'm going to run for the Board of Education. And I think I'll help you out. He said, I've been praying for this, and I hope sure you stay on with us and work. And I talked with Mr. Hall and some of the others, and so I'm here now. But I do have health reasons that I'm doing I didn't have the strength to keep going. I did not go to a lot of things that I thought I should have been at. But this was the Lord telling me, it's time, Dorothy, for you to back up. It's time to back up and let someone else take the reign. And you can still stay on the sideline and do what you can do. And I don't think that this will be my last. I believe eventually someone's going to come again and call me or knock on the door and say, I've got something else for you to do, Dorothy. So, and my answer will probably be, as always, yes. I don't think I have no in my vocabulary. I've always said yes to people. And I've always tried to encourage them to do the very best that they could do. And I tried all I could do. Like I told Dr. Renfro, and I gave it my all. I gave it my all. And I'm proud that young people are moving on and they can look back and say, well, Dorothy Johnson helped him. I did this because you were here. You gave me the encouragement and the motivation to go on. So to you all, thank you for having me. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for cooperating and encouraging me, and my family as well. And I've made friends with this board. Over the 20 years, I've seen a lot go and come. But you can rest assured the ones that need to be here are still here. They're still here. And we appreciate those people. So just keep in mind that I'm not that far gone. And I love each one of you. I think the world of you. And you remembered Todd and Teresa. I remember in the restroom that day when you told me about your grandmother. And I agreed. I think that I still remember it, so I didn't lose it. And the same thing with my namesake over here, Ron Johnson, because many of you know my husband's name is Ron Johnson also. Not the same, though. Not the same, and I think we got that clear, didn't we? But I tried my best When I see things that need to be done, I try my best to flag it and say, this is what you need to do. This is what you cannot do. And see, we come on board, we say we're going to do this, we can do that, but you soon learn. You learn quickly you cannot do it because there's somebody over you with to hold the purse strings that's jerking the money. So just keep in mind that keep on doing what you're doing. Keep the faith and keep on doing what you're doing, and make this board, continue to make this board the best in North Carolina. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Well, we shouldn't have anything left on the agenda, but we do have some items that we got to finish up on.
Oh, Mr. Vetrano's coming up.
Mr. Vetrano.
Mr. Chairman, Lady Vice Chair, members of the board, we did have one other of the superintendent student leaders that was with us briefly today. Zakia Cole from Early College, but I think Zakia had to excuse herself. Don't think she's here now, but just want to make sure everyone knew that she was here for part of the meeting today.
Mr. Vetrano.
Yes, sir. We do have another item. I'm not sure who put me on the agenda after all these tears, but let's continue celebrating some heroes in our district. It's always my pleasure and honor to come before this board and recognize wonderful employees. We have two wonderful, outstanding employees this afternoon to share with you. First, I'd like to invite Mr. Buddy Bailey to join me up here. Mr. Bailey serves as the Student Information Coordinator for the school system. He was nominated by Charlene Covington, who serves as the Student Information Instructional Coordinator. Ms. Covington shared that Mr. Buddy Bailey doesn't know a stranger. He will always give the person in the room his full attention and make them feel honored and welcomed. He is an employee who gets the job done. He has an open door policy for students, parents, staff, and community. He juggles various roles and responsibilities in his department. He ensures all areas of Power School are covered at 45 schools to make the day-to-day operations run smoothly. He has demonstrated proven leadership as our school system changed from various platforms. He led the movement to get an online registration system started and continues to be the point person for support and troubleshooting. A coworker who has worked with Mr. Bailey his entire career in Johnston County Public Schools states, Mr. Bailey has always been passionate about student information and helping data managers. Mr. Bailey is well respected within the school district, and we would all benefit from taking a lesson in supporting schools from Buddy. Buddy, we appreciate all that you've done these many, many years for our school system. Congratulations on being our Classified Employee of the Month. Thank you. Mr. Bailey, not finished, a certificate, a gift, and a gift card as well. It can be used at Busch Gardens.
All right. That's where it will be used. Thank you.
Our Certified Employee of the Month is Miss Christine Kling. If Miss Kling will please come forward and join me. Ms. Kling serves as a preschool inclusion specialist for the school system. She was nominated as Employee of the Month by Jennifer Templeton, a preschool program specialist. Ms. Templeton shared that Ms. Kling began working for the preschool office as an itinerant special education teacher in 2013. In that position, she demonstrated the ability to be a peer coach, a parent facilitator, and a community advocate. She coached many colleagues, including me, to become better in our individual roles regarding student services, student advocacy, parent communication, and paperwork completion. Last year, Chris assumed a new role as our preschool inclusion specialist. She brought all the strengths she mastered in her previous position into this job, where she also works directly with all preschool teachers, in addition to parents and community agencies. She demonstrates creativity and innovation by helping colleagues, parents, and community agencies navigate the many options and requirements that must be considered to ensure that all preschool students, regardless of their learning and developmental abilities, are served in best practice and data-driven environments. Ms. Kling, we certainly appreciate all you do for our school system. Congratulations on being our Certified Employee of the Month. We also have a certificate for you, a gift, and a gift card. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Our next meeting is December the 11th. It'll be here before you know it at 2 p.m. Am I missing something? Okay. Be December 11th, 2018. Dr. Renfro.
Mr. Chairman, I would ask that our board approve the personnel moves that we discussed in closed session.
I entertain a motion. Motion by Todd Sutton, second by Ronald Johnston. Any questions? All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion to adjourn. Motion by Butler Hall. Seconded by Vice Chair Johnson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Motion carries 7-0.